from the Cloudy Sky Fantasy Football Show as we reach Season 3, Episode 2, and this is where we get into the statistics of the game. I'm going to go through some numbers. They're fairly intense detail, I guess, but it's the kind of thing that's going to stand you in good stead for hopefully they're a good start to the season, and some of this will be useful for the rest of the season as well, not just the first 5 weeks. So we're going to turn hopefully some hidden value in what we've seen and give guys a tactical edge. So we'll kick off with what's happened in the interviewing. What we had 10 days since we had the launch stream last Wednesday. And then, like I said, we're going to go through some stats. I've got these from the transfer planner, which was fully up to date, ready for patrons to use on Wednesday, I think, this week. Then we've got sort of a summary of the data points there. Then we're going to go through some more bits and pieces in a team order. So I've done this sort of basically in the order of all 17 of last season's Premier League teams in the order they are sort of bookmakers' order to win the league, I guess. So we'll do the key teams at the start, and then we'll skip over some of the other stuff as we move along. Got some questions that came in from the community that we'll go through, which is a bit of a lead on to my team. Spoilers alert, it hasn't really changed much since last Wednesday. Then we'll have a look to see what we're going to do next week, which will be the final pre-season before a fortnight today it all kicks off. Welcome to those in the chat. I can see David Folks is in, Andy Barnett's in, Nobbles is in, Conk's in, Guy Wilcox is in. If you've got any questions, leave them in the chat. David says, evening all. Andy, evening. Noble says, evening, gents. Can't wait for kick-off and see if I've learned anything last year. He's now signed up as a Patreon member to help. Thank you very much. Q plug. Yes. First plug of the day, and we'll get another one later. Thank you, Nobbles. Conk says, good evening. And good evening as well to Guy. So let's have a look and see what we've been doing since last Wednesday. If only my slide would move on one. There we go. So new this week. So we have already got 500 plus players signed up with teams ready to go, which in a week of launching is fantastic news. 2 more weeks to go. We're going to see, hopefully we'll get over 1,000 this year. That's the plan if we can. You will also see next in line we are now in partnership with Dream Team Tonic. They are partnering us, and you can see from one of my daily captains for the first weekend of the season, all of the team shirts are sponsored by Dream Team Tonic. So thanks very much to the boys. It's really, really good news. They're supporting us. We're supporting them. I saw their launch show on the Dream Team last night with Scott, Tony, Conk and Ben. It was a great show, and they've got some really good stuff on their website as well for those that want to go and have a look. We now have an increased prize fund of £1,700. First place is now £1,000 to the winner, not to be sniffed at. Second place £400, third place 150, fourth are 50, and first place as of midnight as the clocks change, the clocks strike as we go into New Year's Day. So halfway through the season really is £100 as well. So these are from the transfer planner. These are some charts that I put together for everybody to use that signs up and uses it. And these are this year's players with this year's prices, with this year's clubs for those that have moved, but last year's points. So when we get to points per million and points per 90, it's based on last year's accumulation, but this year's pricing. So no surprise to see, and these are all top 25s on this type of chart. It's just it fits nicely on the screen, so I hope that helps. See, Bradders is in, evening Bradders. Yeah, DTT times Cloud on fire. It certainly is. It certainly is. So we look at this first page. No surprise to see that Haaland, he was the top point scorer last year, 281 points. What's that? 56 ahead of the next best, which was joint with Bruno Fernandes and Semenyo. And then sort of a fairly acute angle there between 225 and 170 between second and 25th. These are the combined tier points. So top of the shop was Anderson. He had 91. You can see there from the colours a mixture of tackles, passes and shots. Enzo was second, 89. And then that went all the way down to Ampadu of Leeds in 25th place. He had 61. So nowhere near as stretched out at the top, and a slightly more angled decline as we go down. So 25th place has got 2/3 the amount of first place there, really. Oh, I've clicked on too many there. So this is points per million. So this is set on the left-hand scale of how many points people have got, and on the right-hand scale, how many points per £1,000,000 they cost. So this is all in the same order as we had on the first screen, but you can notice a few. I always say on these streams, the guys that sort of sticking their hands above where everybody else is are the guys to take notice of. So you notice there is that 6th place, Raya. He's at nearly 25 points per million. And then Kelleher, 23.6. And another couple there, we've got Mateus Nunes, 23 and a bit. And Van Heck, 24, nearly 24.5. So these are the kind of guys that are cheaper than your top priced players, but are scoring enough points to make you think, yeah, they're the kind of guys that I might think of putting in my team to spread the funds out. Because we all know in this game, you cannot, but it's not like FPL, you can't buy everybody you want to. Even with an only 11-man team rather than a 15-man squad, you can't get the 11 best players in this game. It's just not designed for that. So this is the points per million based the other way around. So this is where points per million on the left-hand side is the key. And then you've got points in the columns moving up. So Raya was the highest points per million at 24.9. Then Kelleher, Nunes, Ruths, Van Heck and Petrovic. So you can see there's 4 keepers in the top 6 there on points per million, and you can only pick one. So it's probably a good idea to pick a good one, or at least change between them to get some decent points. So there's only 2 guys sticking their noses well above the parapet there. You've got Haaland, no surprise, at 21.6, but as we saw, all but 300 points, 281. There's Semenyo, Van Dijk is another one above. There's a few bit further down, and I guess I've missed Thiago. He's just nudging it. And then the 3 that are over at the bottom end are Gahey, Enzo, and Gibbs White. So this is points per 90. So Haaland well at the top here. He's on, well, we know the points, 281, 8.55 points per 90. So if you're getting him and he's getting that many points and you captain him most time he plays, you're on to a winner. And then the next is 6.6 for Fernandes, and we go down to 4.47 at Pickford. There's a couple of guys there that are sticking their hands up. We've got Gabriel at 6.5, Nunes, a recurring theme here with Nunes, 6.3, and 6.47 is Saliba. He'll be back in people's teams, we probably expect, after the overhaul. So this is points per 90 filtered the other way, and the biggest winner here with the highest, and these are only guys that have played 20% of the maximum minutes that anybody's played. So it's not guys that have done nothing. So Osasuna of Newcastle, who has come in at a fairly cheap price, as I read in a blog from Conk on the Dream Team Tonic website. He's at 8.77. Haaland next best at 8.55. And you see a steady decline there across everybody else, down to 6.3. These are the kind of guys that, if they guaranteed minutes at that scoring rate, you'll be getting them in your teams. So we have the likes of Marmoush. So if Haaland's injured, Marmoush will play up front for City, you'd imagine, and he'll be scoring well. Nemecha, Krupi, Sesko, Calafiori, Dorgu, Marino. I mean, super sub, not just for Arsenal, but for Spain as well. The popular names there, Cherky, Isidore, who did well for Sunderland, I think. Callum Wilson did well for West Ham, now at Brentford. Will he be able to do the same? Nori, playing left wing for Man City when they played the Korean All-Stars in midweek. Beto, never really guaranteed it time at Everton, but you see the time he gets on the field, he does well. Gvardiol spent a lot of the time injured. Ekateke, he's not going to be back till after New Year. White could get some game time if Timber's injured again. Bruno Fernandes, he's the first one we get to that's sticking his nose over the line there. Ruben Diaz, is he going to play for City? We don't know. Gabriel, just over the line. He had some time injured. Richarlison, we'll come to him when we see the Tottenham's screen. He's very good at points per 90. Not so good at points per million, but because this is a ratio just of the 90, he does well. You got Saliba, Adley, Semenyo, and again Mateus Nunes. Just catch up in the chat here. So Dave Hannigan's in. Evening, Dave. Anup's in. Hopefully Warwickshire lose against Leicestershire. Well, cheers, Anup. I haven't caught up, so maybe later on. It's a late start today. Albert's in. Evening, Bert. Conk says, I'm now seeing why David's drafts all have Nunes in. Well, he ain't giving away all my secrets. And Conk says, if Osasuna is a start, he'll definitely be in my side at some point this season. I think that is probably true of most people. Quick slurp. It's warm in this office again today. So this is points per million per 90. Again, this is points on the left-hand scale again, and points per million per 90 on the right. So Haaland's the top here, 0.66, but it's based on his 281. And then the guys that are sticking their noses over, Raya again, 0.67, Nunes, 0.73, and a bit further down, Chalobah, 0.67. And then the next slide is this in reverse again. So this is Osasuna at the top at 1.20, and then all of the guys down. And then you see Cherky and Mateus Nunes. They're the ones that are over the line. So what does this all classify for in point scoring metrics? So as we saw, these are all top to 25th charts. So overall points, top was 281, 25th was 170. There's a big difference there. So you need to be getting the guys in your team that are scoring the most points. It's not rocket science. These guys are the ones, especially if you can captain 3 or 4 every weekend and 2 or 3 every midweek, they're going to get you some decent ground covered over everybody else. The tier points, so top was 91, 25th was 61. So tier points are important, but it comes with a caveat that they need to go alongside something else. So the guys that are scoring the goals, they're getting their tier points for shots on target, fine. But if you're looking for a guy that's doing passing tiers, if he's a defender of a top-class side who can get some clean sheets, you're not just getting the 2-3 points for his passing, you might be getting 5 points every third week for his clean sheet. So that's what makes them more beneficial. The workhorses in the middle of the field that can get some tackles and passing, with the occasional assist or a goal, if they're cheap enough, because you're going to need some cheap guys in your side to enable the guys that are going to score you 280 points of a season, then yeah, if they can knock along a couple of tackles, couple of passes and the odd shot and the odd assist every 2 or 3 games, then more than adequate. And we will come to some of those next week when we look at players in a bit more detail. Points per million, so anywhere between 21 and a half and 25 looks to be what you're after. And then 25th, close to 21 and just under 20. So anywhere between 20 to 25 is the kind of thing you're looking at for points per million for the season. Points per 90, 8.5 and 8.7 at the top end, and then 4.7 and 6.3 at the bottom end. The 4.47 was Pickford, and the reason why he's 25th in the overall is because he probably played every game and got enough points to justify it. And then points per million per 90, this is one that we won't see later on in the teams, but because they're all the numbers are small, the differentials are intricate, but when you get to look at it on the planner yourself, you'll be able to look at it in a bit more detail and see it yourself. So 0.66 and 1.2, and then in 25th is 0.55 and 0.72. So let's have a look. No surprise that top of the shop is Arsenal. They are the favourites to win the league again. They played well last year. They've added some players to their side. They've lost a couple. You won't see the lost ones on here. You won't see all of the new ones on here either. Some of them haven't got any points from last year, like Zolis, who played left wing against, was it Betis in midweek? And because this was set before Bruno Guimaraes moved, you'll see him on the Newcastle section, but bear in mind he's going to be playing for Arsenal. So, top point scorer for Arsenal was Raya, and as we saw in the points per million section, he does pretty well, and even though he's had a 0.5 increase, I imagine he'll do pretty well again. Those extra points for a clean sheet for a goalkeeper compared to a defender certainly add up in this game. Next in is Gabriel and Saliba, and then we're looking at Rice and Timber and Saka. I mean, I'm not going to go through every player on every sheet in detail, certainly through the scores, but I've got them all here. So if you want to have a look back through, take some snapshots, you can. So next in is the tier points. So Rice was well on top here for Arsenal, 80 compared to Zubimendi at 64, Saliba at 63. The one thing to note with Saliba, the passing tiers, they seem to drop off. A load of passes in the first half, and the second half, hardly any. Game state, Arsenal let the opposition have the ball. They just defend a 1 or 2 goal lead, and they don't really worry about keeping it. Saka and Gabriel were both injured. You'd expect them to do more again this season. This is their points per million. So top of the shop there is Raya at 25 all but. And then you've got a couple at 19s, a few 17s. And this is their points per 90. So again, Raya, Gabriel and Saliba over 6.5. A couple there in the 7s if they can get on the field. Calafiori, so 7.17 if he can get some game time, looks quite good. Marino, 7. I expect his time is probably even less now with Guimaraes turning up. And then one there, 6.65 is Ben White. So if Timber's out for a while and White is playing, then he is likely to do quite well. So next in we have Man City, and a lot of their players scored well last year. Haaland was top, Semenyo was second top, so he only had half a season at City. Gahey, third, only half a season at City. Núñez, over 200 points as well. Is he going to play this year? We're not sure, we shall see. Donnarumma, 180. Anderson has moved from Forest, all but 180. Ruben Diaz didn't play all of the games, still 156 points. O'Reilly, we had a question from Dan in a WhatsApp group. Why is O'Reilly still a midfielder in the game? Well, the honest answer, Dan, is there's no reason for him to change, or no compelling reason for him to change. I very much expect he'll play a similar role this year as he did last, which means it'll be at least inverting into midfield, if not starting in certain games as well. A couple of guys underneath, Cherki and Foden. Doku got on a roll at the end of last season, Gvardiol. This is their tier. So Anderson was the top by a distance, then Núñez and Gahey, and then a few in the 60s. I mean, even Haaland there, 64 tier points. Nearly all shots. The odd, has he got passing tier there once? How did he manage that? And tackles. Okay. This is their points per million. So look at them all over 20 here. So you're looking at Haaland, Semenyo, Gahey, Núñez, Donnarumma. Then a few just under. So Anderson at 19.6. O'Reilly at 17.8. So when we look at those metrics for getting a decent score for your whole 11, if you can get 6 or 7 City players into your side, then that's all good, apart from as far as scoring is concerned. This is their points per 90. So again, Haaland, 8.55. Over 6 for Semenyo, Gahey, Núñez, Ruben Diaz, Cherki, Gvardiol, Marmoush, 8 Nori. And then a few in over 5s as well. So reading from the bottom, we've got Savinho, Kusanov, Reinders, Doku, Foden, Donnarumma. Yes, you could nearly make your whole side of City if you could afford them, and they would do you okay. So next in is Liverpool. Top of the shop by a distance is Van Dijk, 219 points. Over 50 points, over 40 points behind is Szoboszlai, 176. 147 for Gravenberch, 138 for Gakpo, and it sort of tails off after that. Tier points, Van Dijk and Szoboszlai well ahead, 80 and 75. Gravenberch 61. Wirtz at 50, Jones at 49, 45 for McAllister, and then a lot less for everybody else. Points per million, 20 for Van Dijk, 18 Szoboszlai, 17 and a half Gravenberch, everybody else quite low down. Alisson 14 and a half. I don't think we'll be paying that kind of money for a Liverpool keeper unless they improve. Points per 90, a few standing out here. Ekitike at 6.6, so when he's back could be good. And Isak at 5.89. He is back. Is he going to be good? We shall see. And then Van Dijk, always, well, I think pretty much in all of the Sky and the Cloud seasons, he has done very well at 5.76 there. Next in is Manchester United. Bruno Fernandes, no surprise, 225, well clear of the next best, who's Mbeumo. Slightly ahead of Cunha. And then one of the FPL darlings of the season, Luke Shaw, 134, so he played every game last year. So points per 90, I imagine will be quite low. Whether he's, I can't remember his price, so whether he's high or lowly priced, I can't remember. We shall see when we get to points per million. Friendly start to the season for United. They've got Ipswich and Hull, so I think if you'll be looking at them for coverage. That's their tier points. So Fernandez, 61. Next best is Shaw. So he's got tackles, passes, and the odd shot. That's not bad, 56. Cunha mainly shots at 53, and then 44 downwards for everybody else. Tielemans in there at 44. Whether he's going to make the kind of impact he could do in this game at United remains to be seen. And then we've got the likes of Dorgu, Ahmad, and Sesko. It's difficult to know exactly what to do with United because they start with good games, and then they've got, I think, they've got Hull and Ipswich, Everton, City, and Fulham, I think, is their 5th game before the international break. So definitely good, but do we know exactly who's going to play? Tricky. That's why Fernandez is so highly owned, because everybody knows he's going to play. Just their points per million. So nobody really touching 20 really. You've got Fernandez at 18.75, but his actual quantity of points makes him worthwhile. Couple 16, 17. We're looking at Shaw and Lamans. Next. Points per 90. So where was Shaw? So he's down at 3.73. He's played all of the games, got the points, but didn't get very many in every game, so he played them all. Then you got Sesko 7.2 and Dorgu at 7.1. If you can get hold of them at the right time and they're on that kind of form, then it'd be worth having. Next in is Chelsea. So top of their shop was Enzo. Then Rodgers, who's obviously on Villa points there. Chelsea price in now. João Pedro. Chalobah, Lacroix. Again, Palace price in, but Chelsea fixtures and form. Sanchez, Welbeck is Brighton pricing. Chelsea... He's not going to get much game time, really, as I don't think. Caicedo, and then Cole Palmer. He's down there, 1, 2, 3, 4, just about in the top 10 of Chelsea assets. No European football for Chelsea, no World Cup football for Palmer. I imagine it'll still be fairly popular. Monday night game, first week. We're definitely going to want one Chelsea. Which ones is it going to be? We're not sure. So tier points, Enzo and Caicedo, well clear. Then Chalobah, so it could be a Chelsea defender, and we could pick the right one if we know who's going to be playing. I imagine one that might be popular is Colwill, down the bottom there on 7, but he was injured. He's going to be back, should be playing. Got passing tiers in the season before last. No reason why he shouldn't now. 8 and a bit million, decent value. So these are the points per million. So they've got some over 20s and close to 20s. So Enzo, Morgan Rodgers, Chalobah, and Sanchez. And points per 90. A few close to 6. Couple to note. Achiampong there at 6.65 if he gets a game. Estavo, 6.17. If he can be relied upon at right wing, could be worth a go. Next in is Tottenham, and this is one of the more acute curves going down. Van Heck's obviously from Brighton, 195. Senesi from Bournemouth at 162. Fernandez from West Ham at 142. So the top actual point scorer for Tottenham players last year was Richarlison at 142. And then we've got their defenders. Dubravka was from Burnley points. Vicario, they're over 100. And Kinski's on 26, but we think Kinski's going to play. So their tiers, Van Heck was very good for tiers at Brighton. Fernandez, same at West Ham, and Senesi. And it's the same story, whether it be points or tiers. They've all scored them elsewhere. Points per million, again, same thing. Richarlison there at 14.2. But then when we look at points per 90, he's up at 6.53. So if he can get himself a gig, then he can certainly score you some points. Solanke there didn't score very well last year, 4.77. But it seems he could be the favoured one to start for Tottenham. Probably a wait and see for me, Tottenham all told. They could be great, they could be terrible. We shall see. So then next up is Aston Villa. Watkins well clear, probably because Rodgers has moved on. I was surprised to see Matty Cash in second and Conser third. We didn't really expect too much for Villa defenders with tier points, but they've got enough between them. It'll be interesting when we look at the tiers to see exactly how they've come. Buendia is one, he's there in 6th. Gomez in 5th. So Buendia looks like he's going to be taking the Rodgers slot, and Gomez has been bought from Wolves. Probably take over from Tielemans, we shall see. Not seen anything of Villa in pre-season, I must admit, so that'll be one for next week's watch list. So there we go. This is the tier. So we've got Gomez at the top with 72, Conser 57. That's nearly all passing tier. Yep. Martinez obviously saves, and then Watkins and Cash. They're in 33 for the next, so not that great. Points per million. Nobody even at 19. So two closest are Cash and Martinez at 18.9 and 18.6. Newcastle are next up. So Guimaraes, who is obviously not at Newcastle now, 166. Then Chow, Pope, Voltemada and Barnes all sort of 120 to 130. Chow's doing a bit better actually, 137. Team's been decimated. Not quite sure what we're going to do with Newcastle. Could be required on, I think it's Monday in week 4. They play the Monday night game, single game day at Leeds. So you're going to want somebody from either Leeds or Newcastle. Whether you pick one up to start with or not, I don't know. As mentioned previously and in the chat, Osasuna looks quite lively. I mean, even 79 points last year, and he didn't really get going until 2/3 of the way through the season. Tiers, so Guimaraes and Chow, then Hall. He had quite a lot of time out, didn't he, Hall? So also on Man United's radar from what we can gather. It'd be interesting to see. Points per million, nobody even at 17.5. There's one that's sticking right up above the parapet there is Osasuna at 8.77 on points per 90. There's Everton are next. So quite a few high-scoring players at 170, 160, 150, 148, 148, and then a drop-off. So we've got Pickford, Garner, Tarkowski, Dewsbury Hall, and Ndai. Whether Ndai stays or not, we don't know. Then everybody else is well under. Tiers, Garner well at the top at 84, which is pretty good considering he spent a lot of time playing at right back. And then Ndai, Pickford, Dewsbury Hall, Tarkowski. These are their points per million. So Pickford and Garner, 21, or all but 21 and 19.5. Then a couple of 18.5, Tarkowski and Dewsbury Hall. Points per 90, the one that's sticking his nose up there, as we saw earlier on the striker section, I think was Beto. Okay, next in is Bournemouth. Truffaut at the top, and I'd have given good money to say it wasn't Truffaut, I imagine. But yeah, 172, Petrovic at 167, then quite a few gaps down to Tavernier and Krupi, unfortunately injured. I think he could have been good. So Truffer at the top there. A lot of tackles, the odd pass, the odd shot. Petrovic all saves, the odd pass there for Petrovic. And then Scott, Tavernier and Adams. Krupi, as mentioned, now injured. Points per million, 2 there over 20. So Truffer and Petrovic. And the guys sticking their noses over are Krupi. So when he's back fit, could be one to look at. And then we've got Adley, 6.37. So be interesting. So when Bournemouth get a decent fixture run, could be one to look at. Brentford are next up. Thiago, joint second top scorer last year with 222. Kelleher at 177. He was very good for his price. Anthony's come in from Burnley. Sharda, rumours, is he going, is he staying? Still not bad at 139. Thiago, top of the shop on tiers. Then we've got 4 over 40 there. Kelleher, Damsgaard, Anthony and Yarmulke. Yarmulke's strange. He seems to not play very much, but he's obviously played enough to get 42 tier points. A couple over 22 here. So we've got Thiago and Kelleher. Anthony in at 18.7. And then we see Callum Wilson at 6.87 on the points per 90. If he can get himself a gig, then he's not bad. Whether he's not going to be starting ahead of Thiago, though, is he? Is he going to be second choice if Thiago gets an injury? Remains to be seen. So Brighton are next. Verbruggen, 167. Dunk, 150. Karagioglu, single game day hero, Karagioglu, 140. Gomez, 125. Could be interesting. Strikes obviously come from Leeds. Minter didn't get much of a look in, did he? So Dunk at the top for tiers, nearly all passing. Brighton have always been a passing side. We saw that Van Heck, who'd moved on to Tottenham, very much on passing. But Brugge, they were improved at the back under Herzler at the end of the season. Gomez third on 54. So nearly 21.5 points per million for Verbruggen. Best part of 19 for Dunk, and then a steady decline for the rest. And one sticking his nose over the top there is Boscagli, 6.08. Not convinced he's going to be playing. If he does, could be worth it. There must have been passing tiers in there, I imagine. Nudge it back one. Can we see some tiers for Boscagli? Yeah, so 24 tiers, mainly passing. Okay, Forest. Gibbs White, 207, outstanding season. Neco Williams, also a very good season at 171. They're well clear of the next best is Sells at 138 and Jesus at 131. Just noticed a comment in the chat from Nobbles about Wood sticking his nose up. Is he actually in here? Did he? Oh, there he is, 50. So that's on combined. Will be interesting to see where he is for points per million or points per 90 Nobbles and see. So tiers, Williams 68, very good on those. Gibbs White 47. So 19.9 and 20.6 for Gibbs White and Williams. Wood there very much underneath on points per million at 5.15. Yeah, 4.97 on points per 90. So if he gets more of a game, they could improve on there. Dominguez as well at 5.36. Their best of the lot, just under 6, is Gibbs White. Leeds. Harry Wilson's top, fresh from his move from Fulham. Calvert-Lewin, who amazed us all, I think, with his performances last year. He's very good at 165. And then big drops at Aronson, Ampadu and Stack in 130 to 126. Then a drop again to Rodon at 113. Tier points, Ampadu 50% more than his next teammate there at 61. Calvert-Lewin's got 42 alongside Stack. Points per million, they've got Wilson at over 20 at 21 and Calvert-Lewin close at 19.6. Points per 90, there's definitely one over the top there. Nemecha, 7.46. A couple over 6 as well. Okafor and Longstaff. So if they get a place in the side, they can definitely score you points. Crystal Palace, who are surprised to see quite so far down the list of favourites to win. They've got some defenders at the top of their point scoring. Henderson 171. It's interesting to see how many keepers are right at the top of their overall points. I guess because they play every game. Mitchell and Munoz, the two wing backs, 168 and 164, and then down to 145 for Mateta. Tiers, Mitchell top, Munoz second, Wharton third. Over 21 for Henderson, over 20 for Mitchell, 17 and a bit for Munoz. Over 6 for Daniel Munoz, close to 6 for Mateta. Devaney up to 4 and a bit, over 4.5, 4.6 actually, if he can get some game time. Fulham, not got so many players left really by the looks of it. Leno's top with 151. Anderson, who was good last year at 138. Then Bassey and Iwobi. It's not looking like a great Premier League side there, is it? Tiers, 60 the most for Anderson. Then down to 48 for Bassey and Burge. Points per million. Leno did get close to 20 at 19.36. Then less than 17.5 the rest. Who's that sticking over there? That's Kearney at 5.9. Not much else anywhere for Fulham. And I think Sunderland there, the outside the bottom 3 promoted clubs, they're the favourites to go down. Roofs had a great season at 1.69. Lefay on penalties at 151. Makalele, who's very good going forward at 147. And Hume, 135. Defender playing right wing. So if he still carries on playing right wing, that'll be interesting. Sunderland have got a decent set of fixtures at the start of the season. Tier points for Sunderland. Lefay was top at 56. Xhaka and Roofs just under 49.48. 22.5 for Roofs. Next best is Makalele at 19 and a third. Isidore 6.91. If he can get some time up front is okay. So some questions. So I'm going to read these from bottom to top because they're the way they came in. So Joe Cook, fancy Joe, or fancy _ Joe _. My question is, what would your best piece of advice be to a newbie? Can't wait to tune in with a Friday night Cloud Live and a beer. Well, you and me both. Cheers, Joe. So my best piece of advice is probably twofold. First bit, and I've said this since probably the first time I was ever on a podcast as a guest of the 3 for 1 podcast all those years ago, is there's no such thing as too many transfers at the back end. We can use them all between now and March, but if you haven't got any in April and May when the injuries hit, then what are you going to do? And then the other piece of advice would be plan ahead. If you can see where the pitfalls are and where the opportunities are that others can't, then you've given yourself a helping hand. And a lot of people play this game as if it's just a normal FPL game where you pick your team every week and then you go with that and hope for the best. Well, if you can get yourself ahead with a bit of planning, look for the single game days, look for the 2, 3, 4 for 1s as they come. Mainly after New Year, I've got to admit there. So it's a game of patience. And And then the other thing is pick attacking players from attacking sides and defensive players from defensive sides. Andrew Barnett, evening Andrew. Andy says, hi Ian, my question is, if you were forced to use 4 of your 50 transfers in the 5 game weeks up to the overhaul, would your starting 11 draft look different to the one you go with if you weren't planning on using any subs to the overhaul? If it would be different, then why? Okay, so if I move this forward one, this is my current first draft. It's unchanged from what I did last Wednesday. It's not probably going to be my full team, but if I have a look at the fixture layout, because this is what I'd be thinking about if I had to make some transfers, and I did have a brief look at this earlier, and what I think I would probably do, Andy, I would start with a block defence of Man City for their games against Bournemouth, Palace and Coventry, and then I would switch that for a block for Arsenal for their games against Chelsea, Sunderland and Brighton. If I could get a back 3 plus a keeper and use those 4 transfers, I would hope that Coventry could score against Arsenal in the open game. And then Arsenal have got a difficult fixture at Villa. Meanwhile, I get the City games at home to Bournemouth, away to Palace and at home to Coventry before they take on Manchester United. Admittedly, they do have Sunderland to come, but I would get 3 games in of my Arsenal players for Chelsea, Sunderland and Brighton. So I think that's what I would do if I was forced to use them. I'm not suggesting it's a great idea, but if somebody held a gun to my head, that's probably what I would go with. And a question from Connor, Conquer FF. Hi Ian, I've noticed that a lot of drafts from Cloud FF players have a big focus on centre-backs over full-backs. Is this due to bonus potential, mainly passing and tackles? A similar pattern I've noticed is bonus monster mids over goal threat wingers. Well, you've answered your own question there, I think, Connor. The guys who score well in Cloud games do well because they can score the tier points. Some fullbacks can do it, as we've seen. Mateus Nunes has scored well, but when you consider that most of the passing is done between the centre backs, then if they're passing to each other, it definitely helps them both. And again, for wingers, I mean, most wingers these days are probably classed as forwards, and then they're going to be getting their points through goals, whereas the guys that are cheaper, that can play in the middle of the park, the likes of Anderson, where he's going to get some tackles, he's going to get some passing, he's going to get the odd assist, he's probably going to play 90, then yeah, that's where you're going to score your points. And we will come to that next week as well, when we look at a bit more ownership and how we can set our teams up ready to attack for what's going to be the first 5 hectic weeks. So thanks very much for your questions, guys. Greatly appreciated. Get some more in for next week, even better. So there was my draft. There was the fixtures. We'll come back more onto that again next week. So join the Cloudy Sky Fantasy Football Show Mini League. Code is on the screen. Charlie Quebec Echo X-Way Yankee Quebec Lima 4. The more the merrier. So coming up next week, we'll be back a week today on the 14th, which will be a week ahead of the deadline, and we'll be looking at some ownership. Are we going to be sticking with the peloton or plotting our own course? We're going to be looking at a formation. Are we going for some stars and scrubs, or are we going to pick some middle of the road 11? And tactics. How many points do we need to win? And a few pointers on how to win. Again, thanks to the guys listed here. We've got at FF Stuff 3, Mike, still working hard behind the scenes. Tim at Can I Just Shock You, still promoting as well. At JS Cloud FFHQ, who not only did the price reveal graphics, he's done some team ratings. Check him out on Twitter X and you'll get your team rated. If you want to follow me, you'll see us for the Transfer Planner over at the Cloudy Sky Fantasy Football Show on Twitter, patreon.com/Cloudy Sky Fantasy Football Show. Please like and subscribe if you've enjoyed your viewing. And we will be back next week for more Friday Night Live. So enjoy your weekend.